Don't ask, don't tell. But the latest Fox News Opinion Dynamics poll puts the president's approval rating at a new low, 40%. So what, if anything, can he do to bring his numbers up before Election Day 2012? Joining us now for a fair and balanced debate, Bonjean, former communications director to Speaker Hastert, he's the Republican, and Democratic strategist Christopher Hahn, former aide to New York Senator Chuck Schumer. Ron and Chris, welcome this morning. Ron, let me first start with you. I mean, that 40%. Were you surprised by that number?
Yeah, no, I'm not at all. You know why? Because we're talking about 9.8% unemployment across the country. You know, really high unemployment rate, and President Obama has got to focus on what to do to bring that employment rate down and what he can do to get the economy rolling again. The tax cut in preventing tax increases was a good first step, but you know, he had a pretty bad attitude going into it, and now they've tried to pass a $1.1 trillion spending bill, which shows the priorities are still a little bit off. They're going to need to focus on spending cuts and join with Republicans in a bipartisan way next year on doing that, or else I think that approval rating will stay the same.
Well, Chris, can there be a bipartisan work on this situation, on the cuts as we just saw with this tax cut compromise?
Well, I think you're going to have to, and as you could see in this $1.1 trillion spending bill, it was both sides that loaded it up with specialties. You know, the top pork getter was the two senators from Mississippi who had many projects, and they're both Republicans, both conservatives, the last time I checked anyway. So I think everybody's going to have to come to the center and find a way to make this happen. Now, as far as the president's poll numbers, 40%, that's pretty much where Reagan was at this point in his presidency and exactly where Bill Clinton was at this point in his presidency. So I think the president's got him right where he wants him. Republicans are now in control of the House. They're going to have to govern, not just throw bombs, and let's see what they do. The president showed he's willing to move to the center. Are the Republicans willing to do that as well? I think that's the case for the next couple of years.
Yeah, you mentioned those numbers with President Clinton. Let's take a look at a full screen for a second that compares where we are now, 2 years in. 2 years into the term, President Obama basically is at 45%. That was for the week of December 6th to the 12th. As we said, the approval rating of the latest Fox poll is 40%. So let's say 45%. President George W. Bush, look at that, 63%. That, of course, just about a year after 9/11 and before the Iraq War. But take a look at President Clinton and Reagan, 42% for Bill Clinton, 41% for Ronald Reagan. And Ron, guess what? Both Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan were reelected 2 years later. So does this 40% matter?
Yeah, I do think it does. I think he's on a tipping point here because he has to focus on jobs and the economy. If he doesn't, he's in big trouble. He cannot get distracted with handling issues like don't ask, don't tell, you know, the DREAM Act. He's going to have to join Republicans, and that's why Republicans were elected. Republicans were elected in November.
60% of Americans.
It's my turn to talk.
Right,
Republicans were elected in November to cut spending and cut taxes. They sent a message to the Democrats who promised change and didn't deliver, and now Republicans are trying to do that. They promised to cut 5% of their own personal office budgets and leadership budgets. They're going to go into January promising to repeal parts of the health care package, and President Obama has to, in his State of the Union address, come out with some massive spending cuts in order to send a message to the American people that he gets it.
Chris, do you think in January the president will do just that, take a page from the Republican playbook and call for massive spending cuts when he addresses the nation at the State of the Union?
You know, I think he's going to take a play from the Clinton playbook and find a program that everybody can agree on and try to work to make it smaller. I think that's what he's got to do. As far as the don't ask, don't tell situation, 60% of Americans, 70% of Americans support repealing don't ask, don't tell. People like John McCain, who've been making themselves go crazy over this. You know, John McCain, about 10 years ago, we all thought had presidential timber. Now, I wouldn't want to be behind him in line at a deli. The guy has gone off the deep end on this, and I think Republicans have to move to the center with the president. It can't just be a one-way street.
Oh, that's mean. Don't be so. I know, that's mean. I mean, I'd stand behind him at a deli.
Hey,
I mean,
listen,
he's a war hero. Look what he went through in that POW camp for this country.
I think it boils down to jobs in the economy.
All right, jobs in the economy.
That's right.
Jobs in the economy, jobs in the economy. Ron Bonjean and Chris Hahn, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
We'll
try to keep it with the Christmas spirit. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
The family of a border agent killed is waiting for him to arrive to his hometown of Detroit, Michigan, not the homecoming they were expecting. His name is Brian Terry. He's a member of an elite team, and he was